Hey everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country on MKOCRadio.com. With 9 albums, 13 number ones, and 26 charted singles, Shenandoah stands as one of the greatest groups in country music history. This year they celebrate their 30th anniversary with a tour and a brand new album. Tonight it's my honor to welcome founding member and the voice of Shenandoah, Marty Raybon, to My Kind of Country. Marty, how are you tonight?
Man, I'm doing absolutely wonderful, Scott. It's great chatting with you.
Well, bless you for taking time to be on the show. It sure is nice to talk with you.
Well, I've been looking forward to it. So we'll answer anything you got and run with it as best we can.
That's great. Well, a couple years ago, I was privileged to have Mike McGuire on the show too, and what a great guy he was too. We had a blast.
Yeah, Mike's a good fellow. You know, we've been talking about this 30-year anniversary. You know, we've been running up and down the road for a pretty good while, and you know, we've become more like brothers than anything. You know, it's, you know, you have those times where there's, you know, in some marriages they say it's not arguing, it's intense fellowship, and I think that's just because, you know, you want the same things, and sometimes, you know, you think about, you know, trying to reach and achieve the goals that you've got. You know, you just come from a different angle, and it's always good to be able to kind of hash those things out and to talk back and forth about them, and you know, we've been able to do that, you know, for 30 years, and you know what I found, I consider Mike a, you know, I've got two brothers, and I consider three brothers because of you know, the relationship that I've had with Mike for 30 years, not just a business partner, but, you know, in fact, I probably spend more time with him than I do my brothers. And after a while, you know, you just get to understanding that you know, as you go down the road and you find the things that you like and find the things that, you know, you disagree on or whatever, it's not really a major thing. It's just, you know, a different preference of different things. So it's been a good relationship. It really has. And neither Mike nor myself would ever have believed when we first started that, you know, that some 30 years later, you know, because, you know, Scott, when you first start out in a career in the music business, or I guess any other kind of business, you know, you don't think, you know, in the terms of, well, what about 30 years from now, or what about, you know, 20 years from now, or what about 10 years from now? You know, you just think of the day of, and what you need to be doing to try to hopefully, you know, bring some longevity, you know, to your career, and you know, just try to do the right things, and to try to, you know, mold it and shape it in a direction, you know, that you want it to go, you know, hoping with the goal in mind is, you know, success, and then, you know, some 30 years pass, and you look back on it, it's kind of like raising children. You can't believe they're that old, you know, and it's been a good experience. It really has.
Well, you certainly have produced a lot of fantastic music over the years, and it's amazing how the time flies. When I was first looking at the bio and it said 30 years, I had to really stop and think about that. But yeah, it really has been that long, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. But, you know, and then again, it's like raising kids. You know, you know, you can look back on yesterday and think that it literally was yesterday. You know, and before you know it, you think about, you know, what it was like, you know, recording the first album and having the first number one record, the first appearance on the Opry, the first, you know, award show, the first award. You know, you can look back on that stuff, and it literally does seem like yesterday, and it doesn't seem like it's been 30 years. But, you know, I actually contribute that to a lot of you know, what we do, because we genuinely still truly love people. I mean, we really do. We love doing what we're doing, and we know that there's a certain bar that we've got to make sure that we reach. And just like this new album that we just came out with, Reloaded, we knew good and well that we were going to have to offer people even more than what we had before, because it'd been 20 years since we had a record out on radio, and and certainly it had been 20 years since we had delivered an album to country. Now, we did a gospel album a couple of years ago, but it was the first offering that we had for country music, in 20 years, and not really knowing how that would be accepted, and knowing, there's always that kind of pondering thing that goes on in your mind. You wonder if it's still going to work, or if we've still got what people want to hear, and just to be really quite honest with you, you find tunes that like 2 Dozen Roses and Church on Cumberland Road and Mama Knows and I Want to Be Loved Like That and Moon Over Georgia, and you find out that for the country music fan and the fan base that's listening to music, you find a great deal of loyalty of stuff that they believe that those songs stood the test of time, and it's really kind of unbelievable, to realize that you can be in that place, but we never ever try to take any of that for granted. We always try to see what we can't do about, literally trying to better ourselves, better the show, try to entertain people, when they come to show. Look, anybody can be contracted to do 90 minutes and get up there and do you 90 minutes and leave, and, the promoter feels like he got his money's worth and all that other kind of stuff. But, it's not really the promoter that we play for. It's the audience. And it's the folks that through the years have been fans, and it's the folks that bought the records, and it's folks that bought tickets, and folks that that just wanted to come because they liked the music. And we've always felt like we owed them more than just a contracted amount of time, whether it was 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 90 minutes. Genuinely most of the time we play probably closer to two hours and something. The reason why it is because a lot of times in the audience, we try to make it personable. Folks will yell something out in the audience, and they'll want to hear a tune that was on an album, and it wasn't a single, so good and well they had the album because they yelled the tune out, and it was a tune that they liked, or hey man, my favorite song was I Was Young Once Too. Man, would y'all do I Was Young Once Too? And so therefore, it's give us an opportunity, which it's kept us from making sure that music was ever getting stale or stagnant and that kind of stuff with us. To be able to go back and dig out some of those tunes that were on albums that we felt like were really, really good tunes. And therefore, to realize when somebody would yell it out, it's something that meant something to them as well. And that was our purpose in putting it on the album anyways, because we felt like it said something to us. And apparently it said something to somebody else as well, too.
Right. Well, that brings up an interesting point. A lot of the songs that I play on my shows are album cuts. And I've got years and years and years of music that I can draw from, and like you said, there's songs on albums that really stand out and meant something to somebody, and they may not necessarily have been released as a single, but they kind of stand out. And I've noticed with the audience that I have, they love that kind of stuff. And in many cases, you introduce them to a song maybe they hadn't heard or kind of forgotten about, and all of a sudden it kind of becomes its own little entity and a hit, beyond the hits the group had, and that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in fact, we had even talked about doing, recording an album called "The Ones They Missed."
Ah, yeah.
And what it was is, we wanted to in the worst kind of way, because we felt like, during the time in our career, in 89 and 90, where songs like Mama Knows and Church on Cumberland Road and Sunday in the South were really, really working really well, and a tune called See If I Care. And now all those were singles. And then off that same album, we wanted to come, which the album was titled The Road Not Taken. We wanted to come with The Road Not Taken, and the label said, no, we don't want to do that. And we really felt like at the time that was a song that would fit better than See If I Care that they wanted to come with. And, we even had a meeting there at CBS, and we said, look, I'm telling you, this needs to be the next single. And they said, no, look, fellas, I'll just forget about that. We're gonna come with a different one. And that See If I Care didn't do as well, and it was not one of those. Well, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say, we were out there with the people, and we had been playing it live, and we were watching the reaction of the audience, and just watching what they would do, how it made them feel,
Sure.
kind of stuff, facial expressions or whatever, and to realize at the end of the tune whether the applaud was one way or it was another way with others. And you could tell that was one of those type of songs that really moved people. And we had mentioned that, to Roy Wunsch and the folks at CBS, and they said, look, if we put a single out, that's the one they're going to like. I said, yeah, but you got to understand what we've been doing live and the reaction that it's getting live. Well, that don't always mean nothing. Well, we begged to differ and felt like that should have been the one that came instead of See If I Care. And that it wasn't. So you can't go back and say, well, I guarantee the Road Not Taken would have been better. You can't make calls or statements like that because you don't really know.
Right.
But we really felt like that would have been a better choice. Now we had talked about, and we still bring it up quite a bit, honestly. Like I was saying a while ago, doing a record called The Ones They Missed, and there's been several of them like that we felt like should have been singles. That the labels, they just didn't want to do it. But we felt like for the core of our music base, our fan base, friend base, there's tunes that would have worked a whole lot better than the selections that they made, and therefore being able to offer them in an album, that way they could get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, that might be an idea for a future project for you. I think that's a fantastic idea.
That's what we're actually talking about doing, and of course it wouldn't be in other words, it would be like a side album that we would do, trying to, although we do feel like, the ones that were missed were hits. But, then again, we'd have to make sure that, that would be one that the timing would have to be really right on.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you were talking about live recordings. I've always been a fan of live recordings, and throughout the years, country music history, it's kind of something that's been done a lot over the years as live albums. And for the last, 10 years or so, there haven't really been a whole lot of live albums, and I'm kind of glad to see that that's coming back again. There's been other artists that have done them, and of course, you guys have a brand new album, which is called Reloaded. It's your 30th anniversary album, and it's so great to hear these songs live. And my question is, as you do these songs live over the years, I'm sure they kind of, morph into something a little bit different, or maybe you kind of change the interpretation a little bit. How do you view your songs as you play them now, as opposed to when they first came out on record?
Well, man, that is a great point, because that really actually was the thing that back when we were over at RCA, we actually, by this time, Church on Come the Road and 2 Dozen Roses and Sunday in the South and Moon Over Georgia and stuff like that had already been out. So to keep the excitement in a show, we would, let songs morph. We deviate from the way it was originally recorded. That we wouldn't change it drastically. That people wouldn't know an intro, or people wouldn't know, what we were fixing to play. We wouldn't change it, to the point that nobody knew what it was. But there's little things that happen in tunes that you do that's different from the way that you originally did it. And therefore, we started doing that, because we thought that maybe a different chord change in a solo would make something a little bit more enhanced. Plus, it kept us on our toes. It kept us excited about the tunes. Therefore, because I believe people reads off the excitement of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And therefore, if you're excited about it, they'll be excited about it. And went in and we'd cut 5 tunes with Jay DeMarcus. And, of course, for the listener out there that may not be familiar with Jay DeMarcus, he's the bass player that works with Rascal Flatts. He's not just a very, very intricate part of the group Rascal Flatts, but he's also a tremendous record producer. And Jay's got such an insight of the way the direction of a tune needs to take. He's really brilliant with that. And so we went in and we'd cut 5 songs with him to shop a deal because it'd been so long since we had a deal. And we picked the tunes that we did because we felt like they sounded a lot like what we had done in the past. And when Jay had asked Mike and I, what were we thinking about direction, and we said, well, the one strong suit that we always felt like Shenandoah had was a lyric that would allow people to identify their life in it.
Yeah.
In other words, it was a story song, but it was something that commercially, you could put it out and it would have a mass appeal instead of just one certain thing that you were trying to beat, to drive home. It had an effect of some things that a lot of different people could think a lot of different things about what that song meant to them.
Right.
And so anyway, when we did, and we had the 5 songs picked out, and we started shopping the deal, then the record label BMG said, "Well, look," said, "Man, this is great, but really what we want to do is we think trying to reintroduce y'all to the country music audience that's changed a lot in the last 20 years. Let's put the past hits on there, but let's do them live."
Yeah.
And we want kind of like a hybrid album. We'll use 2 or 3 of the Jay DeMarcus tunes for the singles, and then we'll do the live versions of 2 Dozen Roses and Church on Cumberland Road and that type stuff. And we'll offer that as the past hits, but Shenandoah, in other words, Shenandoah moves on.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that we probably heard the most is that, man, it sounds like, y'all never quit. The new single Noise and the single we're fixing to release, Where I Grew Up, is one of those type story songs, that really tells something. Noise tells the utter dependency on knowing that without a shadow of a doubt someone has a love in their life that they depend on, that brings them back to earth, that allows them to understand their worth in life. And then you turn right back around and you come with a tune like Where I Grew Up. It's one of those type songs that anybody that would listen to it, the first verse really kind of sets it up. It says, "There's still marks on that pantry door in that little house where Mama used to measure us." I'm proud to say that's my home, where I was raised, but that's not where I grew up. See, I gained a little on Father Time. That summer my granddaddy died. The first time I saw Mama cry, man, that sure was tough. I felt like I'd put on a few years, watching Daddy wipe her tears in my little coat and tie, standing in that cemetery mud. That's where I grew up.
That's a
and it's songs like that with a lyric content that we believe has a great deal to do with a lot of people. And if it's a song that'll really truly say something to you, because look, whether we play music or whether we don't, we're really no different than anybody else. We just have a different job. We may not be a block and bricklayer, we may not be a plumber, or we may not be a computer tech, but we still have a life, and we still have a time when we grew up, and some of the things that while growing up, maybe your mama did, set you alongside the wall there, in the pantry or in one of the rooms, and as your age would go, they'd see how tall you were, and then write, how old you were at the time. There's a lot of people that actually went through that.
Yeah, that's we have.
Or,
We have one of those in our house too. We have right by our attic door. We have a little board there, and we've measured my daughter since she's grown up. So I totally relate to that. Absolutely.
Yeah, so therefore, there's a lot of things that that literally appeal, to the heartstrings of people that hear it, and I think that's really what makes songs a personable thing for people. And the wonderful thing about it is, it doesn't have to mean the same thing to me that it does to you for it to be liked.
Yeah.
Because what somebody likes in a song may not be the part of the song that really got them. Maybe it's in the second verse that got them.
Yeah.
My senior year, case of beer out on a river bank, getting a head start on 21. Now that's the place that made me feel just like a man, but that's not where I grew up. See, I gained a little on Father Time. That night I crossed that center line. I bet I rolled a dozen times. Next thing I knew, I was waking up upside down, praying God just get me out as I hit my knees beside what was left of my truck. That's where I grew up. And it's accountability of understanding without understanding how you grew and the things that really meant something to you in life, and the altering things in life that moved you from one point to the other, or made you the person that you are. And I think those are the kind of things that, when listening to music, that truly move people. Music is a powerful thing, whether it's up in an up-tempo tune or whether it's down in a ballad. It's what the lyric and the melody says to people that truly moves them from one state of emotion to the other.
Absolutely.
And that's what we try to do when we put on a show. We literally try to arrange the songs, and sometimes, we go by the set list, and sometimes we don't. The set list is just something that we've got a blueprint. But sometimes you can feel a show going a different way, and I have the opportunity of being able to say, hey, look, hey, man, let's do this one here.
Yep.
And this is what'll work right here. This is where they're at, emotionally. And if it's up tempo, then man, pound them with another one. If that's where they're at the time.
Yep.
Because that's really what you want to do with music, and realizing how powerful it is to be able to move people. And at the end of the night, whether we played 90 minutes or 2 hours, whatever, at the end of the night, if for the time in which they, that we had them, and we were able to take their mind off of everything in the world that was going on, and we could literally implant them in that show for 90 minutes or 2 hours, and if we can do that and captivate them and bring them through the different emotions and the different levels of excitement and trying to entertain them, then we've actually done what we came to do. When we go and when we're booked for a show, we don't go play for the promoter. Either the promoter is the one that hires us, or the buyers are the ones that hire us to do a show. But that's not who we're doing the show for. That's just who, made it capable for us being there.
Absolutely.
But it's the audience that came that we try to concentrate on.
Well, that's really what's giving you guys the longevity, and that's honing your craft. And you were talking about the music and how it reaches people, and there are songs like that they may not necessarily be exact things that have happened to you, but they might trigger a memory. And Freddie Hart put it the very best way I think I've ever heard it. He said it's people put to music, and that really sums it up.
That is a tremendous way of putting it, because that truly is the true essence of what a tune is. It's one person singing. It's like when somebody goes, and I mean, it's really this simple. Well, man, how was your day?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ShenandoahBand.com is the place to go. The album is called Reloaded. It's live hits and 3 brand new songs, as Marty just mentioned. And, of course, you can go see them on tour. They're going to be playing all over, celebrating their 30th anniversary. And, Marty, besides you and Mike, who is picking with you in the group?
Stan Muncie is playing keyboards. He should be one of the original members. You know, he came on right after Stan Thorne had left the band in the early days, and Donnie Allen had joined with us in 1990, and I, you know, me and Mike consider him as much of an original. Now, he wasn't in that spot when the band started recording, but he shortly came on after. And Brad Benj is playing bass guitar. Unfortunately, Ralph Ezel, our original bass player, passed away about 10 years ago. And Brad's doing a great job. And then Jamie Michael, man, he's just a firecracker on the guitar. Very tasteful, you know, a very pleasant tone. A great guitar player. I mean, he truly is. I mean, just some of the stuff that he does, and he's got that edge when he plays his solos on When I Got You and some of the other ones that you know crowds really like it, because it's a little bit of a rock feel. Would not get too far out of bounds with it. You know,
yeah.
And I guess the best way for me to explain that, he's very tasteful at the way he brings his solos across on a couple of the tunes on the show, and it really, you know, people that love guitar music and they love guitar rides, they seem to really pick up on it, and those are one of those gifts that, you know, that players and singers alike, but players especially, you know, it's not what you know up and down the neck of the guitar and trying to play everything that you know in one solo. It's knowing when to play and when not to play.
Amen. Yeah, no doubt about that. That's words to live by. I've heard a lot of musicians that they get out there and they've got to use every single lick that they have for every song, you know, and it detracts from what you're trying to do. So I totally understand that. Being a musician, I understand that aspect of it very well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, you know, to make great music. You know, you can get a lot of great players, and you know, folks that, you know, they can pull those licks off. But, you know, and I'm not trying to sound hard, but about 80% of them don't work. And, you know, that was one of the things that on our recordings in the early days that Jim Seals was really so good about. You know, Jim really knew how to play and set a precedence, not only in tone with the guitar, but he knew when the lick came in and when he was supposed to get out of it.
Right.
And he played around vocals, around choruses, and that type of stuff, and even on different solos. You know, like when a piano would take a break or the fiddle would take a break. You know, of course, that's the dominant instrument in the solo, but you know, there's also things that helps that solo out. And you know, Jamie picked right up on that, and I think he's been a tremendous asset to the band since he's come on.
Well, that's fantastic. And Marty, I do want to make mention, you touched on it earlier with your gospel album that you did a while back. I do a Sunday country gospel show, and I play so many of those songs on my show. And I want to tell you, I have always loved your voice for two reasons. It's a very soulful voice, and there's that little cry in there that just really brings out the emotions in the song. But you're also instantly recognizable. Whenever I hear you, whether it's, you know, doing it, you know, Shenandoah tunes or gospel tunes or whatever the case may be, I always know who it is. You know, before I even see who it is. It's truly amazing, and I've always loved that about you.
Well, I appreciate that. That was a gift God gave me years ago, and I'm grateful for that. And there's a whole bunch of times that I thank Him for it. I know every good and perfect thing comes from God, and I'm not advocating that I'm perfect, nor my vocals are perfect, but I know the goodness of what comes out has been because He's allowed me to have it, and I try not to ever take it for granted.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
That's awful kind of you saying that, but He really deserves the glory for that.
That's absolutely right. No doubt about it. Well, folks, please visit ShenandoahBand.com. The brand new album is called Reloaded, live hits and 3 brand new songs, and we're going to play the latest single, Noise, for you, along with a selection of the great live cuts from this album. And make sure you go see Marty and Shenandoah on tour. They're going to be playing all over this year, and you will be thoroughly entertained. And Marty, thank you so much for being on the show. Please give my best to Mike, and I hope to see you guys out on the road.
Man, that'd be great, Scott. I look forward to seeing you as well, too, buddy. I know we all would.
Well, you are welcome on the show anytime, and as you continue your journey and have some new music out, I hope you'll come back on and share it with us.
Brother, that wouldn't hurt my feelings. I'd love to.
All right. Well, God bless you so much, Marty. Thank you so much for being on My Kind of Country.
And the Lord's blessings on you as well, too, Scott. Man, you have a great week, and I pray that you prosper and be in good health even as your soul prospers.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Folks, listen to some of this great music from Shenandoah from their brand new album, Reloaded. ShenandoahBand.com is the place to go as we continue with My Kind of Country right here on MKOCRadio.com.